Is it time for you to make a big move in your life? Mommy and Daddy forcing you to get out in the real world? What they really want you to do is turn your speakers up because you're listening to the Millennial Movers Series podcast, hosted by Dallas celebrity real estate agent Chastin J. Miles.
Each week, I'm bringing you the best advice, tools, and expert knowledge to help you move up in the world and build financial freedom through real estate.
So make Mommy and Daddy proud and turn your speakers up because it's time for you to join the Millennial Movement.
And we are here again, the Millennial Mover Series podcast. I am your host, Chastin J. Miles. And of course, thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for checking it out. We are on episode 11. So excited about this. Today we are talking about leases, all the ins and outs of leases, apartment complexes, private leases, all that good stuff. So you are in the right place at the right time, and this is the Millennial Movers series. We are going to dive right in. But before I do that, I just want to say I have been all up in Snapchat lately. So I've been pretty much putting everything on Snapchat, and it's been kind of fun. And I've been growing a decent following on Snapchat. It seems that a lot of my subscribers and followers are very interested in what goes on behind the scenes. And so that's what I've been doing a lot lately. I've been just reminding myself to pretty much snap at any opportunity because, it's really great. And I have been able to interact with people, and it's a lot of fun. So definitely check me out on Snapchat. It's real simple. I'm on there just as Chastin J. Miles. So you can go on my website, chastinjmiles.com. You'll see my Snapchat code if you want to add me that way. But you can just add me by my username, Chastin J. Miles, and that'll get you there. So yeah, follow me on Snapchat. I'll definitely follow you back. I love the interaction. It's a lot of fun. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to lately besides selling real estate and, helping people and everything. But I'm so glad to be back here talking to you. I'm so glad. I hope you can get some great stuff from this episode because we are talking about leases. And the reason why I wanted to do this episode is because I know that everyone is not ready to buy a home. So there's still a lot of people leasing apartments, leasing properties out there, and that's okay. At the end of the day, we all need somewhere to live. But with that being said, I want to make sure that I am providing you with good informed information for when you do get a lease, you know what to look for. There's a lot of stuff with leases that people don't even know exists, and they don't really know to look for it, or they don't really know where to reference to until it becomes a problem. And that's things such as deposits and pets and just overall getting the best deal. And so that's why I'm doing this episode, because I want to make sure that you make an informed decision and that you know all the ins and outs when it comes to actually leasing a property or leasing a home for yourself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm going to start out talking about just general leasing. So apartments versus like private leases. So and by private leases, I just mean someone that may own a home and they're leasing it out. So if you hear me say private leasing, that's what I'm talking about. And it doesn't have to be like a standalone single family home. It could be a condo. It could be a town home. But it's basically just a home that's owned by somebody else that's not an apartment complex, and they're leasing it out to you. Okay, so apartments versus private rentals. Let's go ahead and talk about the actual cost of them. I will say most of the times, 100%, it's going to be cheaper for you to get an apartment. Apartments most of the time have very low entry fees. So application fees, deposits, they will run specials, all that kind of stuff. So the gate of entry for apartment complexes are typically cheaper. Now with private leases, the reason why they can be more expensive up front, because most of the times you're going to have to pay your first month's rent, and then you're going to have to pay a deposit. And for most private leases, the deposit is going to be the same amount as the first month's rent. So as an example, if your first month's rent is $1,200, then you're looking at a deposit of $1,200. And all that is going to be due up front before you move in. Now, good thing about the deposit is you will get it back in the end, but it is something to take into consideration when you are moving into a private lease or thinking about getting a private lease. Whereas an apartment, they can say, okay, all you have to do to move in is pay your prorated rent, or we may give it to you for free, or we're doing a special where it's just $99 move-in. And so therefore your cost can be a lot lower. Now, generally with an apartment, you may pay a bit more monthly than you would for what you're getting on a private lease, but just up front, there are those costs that you need to be aware of. Most of the times, everybody does have an application fee, and those are pretty general across the board. I mean, they can range anywhere from, I've seen them as low as like $30 a month, but I've also seen in some apartment complexes they're as high as $100, sometimes even over that for an application fee. So that's something you want to definitely make sure that you're prepared about or prepared for. So just as a rule of thumb, it's just going to depend on what you need. I mean, if you're renting a home because you need a lot of space, then go that route. But if you are more, conscious about what you're spending and you don't need a lot of space, then an apartment may be better for you. They're going to have different requirements as far as credit goes. And so just because you can qualify for an apartment, you may not be able to qualify for a private lease because those are owners of the home and they're going to ultimately make the decision. Okay, some are more strict, some aren't. It just depends. Something that I encounter a lot is people think that they can get a private lease because they may have dings on their credit or some things on their credit, and they think that a private lease is the way to go for that. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not necessarily the case. And so you want to be mindful of if you're getting a private lease and they may require some credit items to not be on your credit report. They may not take any evictions. They may not take a credit score under 600. So it can be pretty similar to going through the pre-approval process for a home. So now that that's out there, let's actually move into the lease agreements. Okay? Lease agreements. Now, lease agreements can be very lengthy, and I know for a fact that most people don't even read their lease agreements. They just get to signing away because this is what's going to get me my new home. Now, with lease agreements, I will say pretty much 99% of the time, they are in ultimate favor of the landlord the landlord. So whether it's a homeowner or an apartment complex, a lease agreement is in the landlord's favor. If you mess up anything, they can get a lot of money from you. And so that's kind of what I want to go in with you. Let's start with apartment complexes, okay? Something about apartment complexes that I want you all to be mindful of and to make sure that you have a clear understanding of what you're getting yourself into is free months. This is a special that apartment complexes run a lot. They always, or most apartment communities will promote, 2 months free, a month free, all that kind of stuff at move-in, okay? Now, what I want you to take note with that is the actual term of the lease agreement that you're signing. Now, by standard, everyone thinks that they're just signing a year lease, okay? But something that apartment complexes will sometimes do is they will offer you 2 months free. And what you're actually signing when you sign your lease is a 14-month lease agreement. So they're giving you 2 months up front, but then you're still paying for 12 months. Okay, so in your mind, you may think that you're only signing a year lease and you're getting 2 months free, so you're only paying for 10 months, when in actuality, you're still paying a full 12 months, and they're giving you those 2 months free up front. So think about that. Now, with those 2 months free, or with any months free, there's two things that you want to make sure you have a clear understanding of. And that is if they're going to give you the rent for free up front or if they're going to prorate it over the term of your lease. Now, with upfront, it basically means, say I move into a place on July the 1st. I'm going to have the whole month of July for free. So I'm not going to pay them any money at move-in because they're truly giving me that month for free. Now, if they prorate it, then they're going to be taking that free month. And just as an example, let's take the value of $1,200. They're going to take that $1,200 because that is the cost for 1 month's rent, and they're going to break it up over the term of your lease. So each month your lease is going to be a little less because they're crediting a little bit of money from that free month. So you may actually have to pay some money when you move in. So just make sure that you ask those questions. So with those apartment deals, always ask, is the free month or is your special up front or is it prorated? And then you also want to ask, what is the term of the lease that you are signing because of you getting those free months, okay? And I've even seen apartment complexes, if you don't sign a 14-month lease or a 13-month, 15-month, whatever it is, they don't give you those free months. So you want to double check on that, all right? Next thing about apartments and just about leases in general that you want to be mindful of, and this is going to be in your lease agreement if you choose to read it or not, and that is late fees, okay? Late fees are something that I hope no one ever has to pay, but hey, I get it. Things come up. Most times in a lease agreement, they give you about 3 days from the due date to pay it before they start charging late fees. Now, when you get late fees charged to you, they can be very costly because what they'll do is the first time that you are late, or say on the third day of the month, they're going to have a very large charge to that. It could be $75 or more. I haven't really seen any late fees as low as $50. And so they'll charge you $75 on the first day. So technically the fourth day, they're going to charge that to you. And then each additional day after that, they're going to charge you a fee. And that can be anything. So every community, every landlord is different. So you want to make sure that you have a clear understanding of what you'll be charged if you are late on your actual monthly payment. Okay. Because that could rack up there, especially if you're like a week late. That's going to be that initial late charge plus that charge for every single day that you're late. So be mindful of that. Next is pets. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that I've never snuck a pet into a lease that I've had before. And I know a lot of friends who do it. But y'all, these pet charges can screw you. If a landlord finds out that you have a pet in your apartment or in the lease that you have, they can impose some serious charges, even up into eviction, okay? So if you're going to have a pet, don't try to sneak it in. Just pay the deposit, because in the end, it could cost you a lot more than just paying that actual pet deposit, okay? And while we're talking about deposits, I do want to bring up something that a lot of people have to do with deposits. So whether you pay a deposit up front for your pet or pay a security deposit to move into a place, 9 times out of 10, and this is going to be in your actual lease agreement, a landlord is not going to chase you down to give you that money back. Most lease agreements say that you have to provide them something in writing up to 30, 60 days after your lease ends or after you move out that you want that deposit back. And so if you don't do that, there's a good chance you won't get your money back. And make sure that you read the lease for anything that could void your deposits. So things such as having a pet or things such as paying your rent late, all those things could void your deposit. So you can move out thinking that you're going to get your deposit back when you really won't, okay? So keep that in mind. Just read it all, like read your lease agreements. Repairs are another big thing. If you notice in your lease agreement, there are certain things that a lot of tenants think are covered, and if the landlord doesn't get those things fixed, then they can automatically move out. Well, that's not the case. In lease agreements, they specifically say what they will cover, what they'll repair, and what is grounds for terminating your actual lease agreement. So just make sure that you have a clear understanding of that. And I'll tell you, like I said in the beginning, these lease agreements are in the landlord's favor. So just because there's a cracked tile in the kitchen or your refrigerator went out or whatever you may think it is, that does not give you grounds to get out of your lease agreement. So get familiar with all of that stuff. Okay? Am I making sense so far? always feel free to email me if you have any questions or just want further clarification of anything or want me to elaborate on anything. I'm definitely here as a resource. Okay. So next on with leases, okay, is where does your money go? This is something that a lot of people know. I mean, obviously it's not going to you because you are paying for a lease. And in both types of situations, they're most likely going towards a cost that the landlord has to incur. So whether it's running an apartment complex or paying a mortgage or, whatever, it is for the landlord. Most of the times you'll never know where the money actually goes. But some landlords have their homes paid off, so they may just be taking it as a profit. Some apartment complexes are using it for investment purposes. So if it's a new community, they have a lot to pay for it because they just built a new community. So that's pretty much where the money is going to be going. Whereas owning a home, the money is going towards you. It's going towards building equity in your actual home. But with leases, that's not the case, and you won't get any of the money back and all of that kind of stuff. So just know that, and if you're okay with that, move forward with it. But if you're not, then you may want to consider buying. All right. Oh, this is very important. I want to talk about this right quick. While I have you captivated, since you're still listening, and that is move in, move out conditions. Oh my gosh, this is the biggest thing that can cost people money. Now, whenever you move into a place, whether you are doing a private lease or a apartment complex, they're going to give you a move-in condition form, okay? And there's normally a time limit on this form. It could be as little as 24 hours, 48 hours, or it can be 7 days, 2 weeks, whatever. But it's basically a move-in condition form. And what this form does is it allows you as the tenant to go through the actual property, to look at all the nooks and crannies of the property and mark down anything that is wrong with the property or anything, simply put, that you don't want to be charged for when you move out, okay? And this is so important, but so many people neglect to do this because, we're all caught up in the excitement of moving in a new place and just want to get moved in, and there's so many things happening at once that we don't take care of this moving condition form, okay? I want to instill in your head right now, this is very important. It's so important, okay? If you move into a place and you don't fill this move-in condition form out thoroughly, when you move out, the landlord can pretty much try to charge you for anything that they find on the property. That can include scratches on the floor, scuffs on the wall, holes, just anything, if something's not working. And it could have been like that when you first moved in. But since you didn't note that and you didn't turn in that moving condition form, they're going to assume that you did it. I've even worked with somebody before where there was a couple of things wrong with the actual unit, but they didn't care and they didn't think that they were a big deal, and they failed to put them on the moving condition form. And I'm 100% the landlord knew about these things, but hey, it was an easy way for the landlord to get money when they moved out because they just blamed it on the tenant. And since there wasn't anything written on that form, since they didn't note that, it was their word against his. And so do that move-in condition form. Do it, make it a priority, make it the first thing that you do, and thoroughly inspect the property. Open every cabinet, test all the appliances, look up and down on the walls, look all through the flooring. Just all over the place. The carpets, look for patches, just anything, dirt on the carpets, whatever. If you see it, put it on that form. No matter how small it is, put it on the form because, again, you don't want that to be the reason why your security deposit isn't given back to you. Sorry, I kind of went on a rant right there, but I just know how these things work, and that's why I am just trying to warn you when it comes to that. All right. So, end of the day, fill out that moving condition form, and when you move out, they're going to come behind you and they're going to fill out a move-in condition, and they're going to fill out a move-out condition form and note the things that they see. And you want them to match as closely as possible so that you can get as much of your money as possible when you move out. All right. And that comes to moving out, like I said, with the deposits, you have to request that when you move out. Read your lease agreement. Just because you tell the landlord, or when you're ready to move out, just because you tell the landlord that you're not going to be renewing, or that you found another place and you're going to move out, that does not mean you've given official notice. 9 times out of 10, your lease agreement is going to require that you put this notice in writing. Even if you take a sheet of paper and just write on there the date, and put on there, I intend to vacate the property on such and such date. Sign your name, put the date that you signed it, and put the date that you're going to be vacating. That's going to be your move out notice, or your 60-day, your 30-day notice. Make sure you do that. Verbal notices 100% of the time are not going to be suffice for this. So read your lease. Make sure you know how to give notice. Make sure that it doesn't ban you from sending emails. Some landlords may require that you physically mail them something, or that you hand deliver it, or that I hope nobody's wanting you to fax it, but if it does, it's going to say it in your lease agreement. And so you need to know this, because you don't want to get to your move out date and still get charged for months and months and months because you didn't give proper notice. All right. With all this, I know there's a lot of ins and outs, and we're just kind of scratching the surface because I didn't want to just overwhelm you or discourage anybody from doing this. But I will say that you can hire a realtor for leases. Just because it's not a home sale doesn't mean you can't hire a realtor. Most realtors, if they're licensed, they can conduct leases for you. They can work with the landlord. They can work with the other agent on your behalf. They can work with the apartment complex. Now, of course, you're going to be the one signing and filling out the application and everything, but they can be there for you to help you out, especially if an agent is familiar with leases and know all the ins and outs of a lease. They can guide you. They can let you know what to look for. They can review the lease agreement before you sign it, just to make sure that there's nothing in there crazy, or to make sure that you have a clear understanding of this. I'm not sure how your state will work, but I will tell you, here in Texas, most leasing agents don't charge a tenant for these services, because we do get paid by the actual owner of the property, or will get paid for by the apartment complex. So 99% of the time, there's going to be no charge to you. So it doesn't hurt you to hire a realtor for your lease. All right. This can actually save you a lot of money. This can save you headaches. It can save you time, because they can find the property for you. They can make sure that there's some deals going on. I want to say this. Be honest with your realtor. If you know that you have some evictions, or you have some slow pays or some credit issues, let them know. Like, it's not a deal breaker, but they can vet properties out to make sure that they will accept that before you go and spend money on an application fee, and you spend time when at the end of the day the landlord or the complex won't accept something that's on your record. So just be honest. Let them know. The realtor, just being honest with y'all, the realtor wants to get paid from this, and so they're going to do what they have to do to get you into a property so that they can be paid and compensated at the end of the day. So the more honest you can be with them, they can go and find you something that'll truly work for you. I still, me and my team, we do leases for people, and it's totally fine. I mean, we encourage people to lease if they can't buy, and we encourage people to use an agent when they do decide to lease. And it's a really simple process. It doesn't require much, but it can save you a lot of time and a lot of headache and a lot of money. And so definitely take that into consideration. I mean, why not? It's not going to cost you anything. Okay. We're coming to the end here. I know I've talked a lot and went on a little rant, but the biggest thing that I want you to get from this episode, and the biggest thing just overall, is read your lease agreements. I know there are a lot of pages. I know that they may look like the agreement of your last apartment and everything was fine, but there's a lot of fill in the blanks on there that different communities and different landlords will put different amounts in those blanks that could seriously cost you. So read the agreements. if you're working with an apartment, sometimes they'll go through these lease agreements and they'll just say, this means this, and this means this, and this means this. Yeah, it can mean that, but you need to look at what it could cost you if something's violated. I mean, just some silly things like, say you have a private rental and the landlord puts in the lease like there is no smoking on the property, and they go outside and they visit the property one day and they find a cigarette butt in the driveway, even though it might have not been yours, or it might have been somebody just throwing it while they were driving by. It's on the property. And so the landlord could easily say, you were smoking on the property and we put in the lease, no smoking, and this is how much it's going to cost. Things like that. If you have a pet, like even if your pet's sitting, for the weekend, and the landlord happens to come to the property, or they see a pet stain, they're going to assume that that's your pet. They don't care if it's your friend. They're going to charge you for that. They may evict you for it. And, like just getting crazy with it, like they could say, okay, that pet caused damage to this carpet in this area because it looks like the carpet was scratched or pulled up, and they could try to make you replace the whole carpet, or they can charge you for it. So it could get so exhausting and just ridiculous. But like I said twice already, these leases are in favor of the landlord. So you have to be very careful, and you have to know and fully understand it so that you don't mess up, and so that you don't incur costs to you that you didn't intend. Now everything could go great. Like I don't want to scare anybody from getting a lease. We have to do what we have to do. But the more you can understand the lease, the better you can be prepared for anything. The better you can be prepared for those friends that decide to smoke while you're having a party on your property and decide to flick their cigarette, or the better you can be prepared for someone wanting to bring their pet, or whatever the case may be. Like, you just want to make sure and that you have a full understanding of what could happen while you're living in someone else's property. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Please subscribe to this podcast if it was great value to you. And yeah, check me out on Snapchat because it's getting really fun, and I'm literally giving it all away on Snapchat. So until next time, thank you for choosing the Millennial Mover Series podcast, and thank you for listening. And I look forward to speaking with you soon.